I'm here on the ground with my nose in it since the whole thing began. I've nurtured every sensation man has been inspired to have. I cared about what he wanted, and I never judged him. Why? Because I never rejected him. In spite of all his imperfections, I'm a fan of man! I'm a humanist.
Welcome to Big Fan Podcast. If we're meeting for the first time, my name is Kevin, and I have three special guests. I'm very excited about this conversation. The main topic is space, the opposite of air. Daniel, Thomas, and John. Glad to have you guys on the show.
Glad to be here, man. Yeah, glad to be here.
Those are some biblical names.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any Kevins, though.
Kevin's weren't around at that time.
No.
So I'd like to start this conversation off with the James-Webb-telescope. In October, at the end of October, it's supposed to be launched and in our orbit. And so, John, what do you know about this?
Actually, James Webb, it's going to be launched a little further from our orbit. I think the Hubble telescope was like 300 miles above the Earth. This guy's going to be, like 30,000 miles away. It's going to be more than 30,000. It's going to be further than the moon. It's going to be out there. It's going to be at the Lagrange point between the sun and the Earth. Yeah, that's where it's going to be stationed at.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean by Lagrange point? That's like a dead space where if you put an object there, it'll stay there because it'll be caught between two gravitational pulls, so it can stay there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Closer to the sun, it'll work a lot better.
Are they doing that because of the stuff that they learned from when they launched Hubble?
Yeah, I mean, Hubble left them more questions and gave them answers. So James Webb is to clear that up. That ultraviolet that the optical strength of Hubble can do.
I'm referring to how they had to change the mirrors in there because they didn't account for the weight of the mirrors changing in space.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. The mirror is larger but lighter. Yeah, that's for sure.
Beryllium or something like that. It's called, like the mirror.
Yes, the mirror. Right. High polished. Yeah, it's something else.
Yeah, and then it has an ounce of gold. Do you guys know how they got that gold on there?
No.
They basically gold vapors. So they would like steam the gold and it would like basically spray paint over it, and that's like the smoothest coat, ever. The best way to do it, they said, fucking NASA.
Yeah. Yeah, I seen the room where they're putting it together, man. It's they got hair nets and masks and gloves and the whole nine, man. They're trying to make this thing as clean and pure as possible. Yeah, hey, do you guys remember when they screwed up the Hubble mirror where it was out of focus and they had to go up there and fix it?
Yeah, I did read about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the pictures came out blurry. That's what it was. The mirror just had some little flaw in it. They had to compensate for the error, and they fixed it. But yeah, they were blurry at first and got super crisp the next time.
And they put out some good images.
Yeah.
New telescope is going to be farther away from the Earth, so you won't have the magnetic field protecting it or distorting it.
Right, exactly. And it'll be closer to the sun and have its back to the sun, and it'll have some type of shade to protect the equipment, and also no sunlight will interfere with it in that position. They can know for sure that they're doing straight observations without interference.
It's going to be the most powerful satellite we have in space. It's going to be the biggest we got.
I know they'll be seeing things like the expansion of the universe. Things that are racing away from us are in the ultraviolet spectrum, which Hubble could not detect. They're moving away so fast that they're redshifted and the opticals can't pick them up. But with the James Webb, it'll be able to catch that, see stars behind stars, see galaxies behind galaxies, see all around it and see things racing away. I think, as I've heard, that is going to really open up what the universe truly looks like. You know, what we see isn't really what is. You know, there's so much more. So I think the Hubble will open our eyes to it.
Is it going to be able to compensate for dark matter?
It's actually infrared.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
infrared.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Infrared, it's ultraviolet. Infrared, right. And Dan, what else is it you were reading? What else did it? What did
Yeah,
doing?
no.
Facts check.
Yeah, it's 14,000 pounds. You know, it's a big boy. It's 6 times bigger than Hubble was the mirrors, and it's supposed to be 100 times more powerful. So we're going to be able to see. I've been reading about that we could be able to see the formation of the first galaxies. John, we'll be able to go back in time. Can you explain? Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, it's all about how we receive the light. You know, I mean, it takes time for the light to get here. You know, so if it's so many light years away, the greater the number, the further away it is, and that's how long it takes the light to get here. So essentially, by the time the light gets here, we're actually looking back in time. For instance, I don't know how good the James-Webb-telescope will be, but I'm assuming if it homes in on a planet and we see things on it, I don't think it's that good, but let's say if we could, if they have dinosaurs and they've moved on from that and they're in a particular age like we are, well, we'd see their dinosaur. So we're seeing back in time, you know? Everything we're seeing had already passed. Any explosions that we catch now, I mean, it's already happened. It's old news, you know? Yeah, time machine.
Yeah. So basically, the way I'm understanding it is like if we were to look at Mars in this telescope, we would be able to see somebody basically walking, but technically, like, how long does it take? Like, it takes, like, I know some time.
Yeah, like I think 40 minutes. I think 40 minutes. Yeah, that's why. Is it 40 minutes? Oh, I think it's a 40-minute round tripper. It might be 20 minutes to broadcast something. So I remember that's from The Martian. You know, with Matt Damon. They said about 20 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
In order for us to see back at our own planet and our own solar system in time, we would have to have a telescope as powerful as this that far away right now.
Why do you think they're doing this?
You know, new questions for new answers, you know?
Curiosity.
Yeah.
It will allow us to be able to map the universe more accurately. I mean, I feel like it will allow us to be able to see potential planets that potential livable planets for the future if we're able to ever get out there someday. I think that could be really important.
Look at everything we learned from Hubble. We've been discovering planets in the quote unquote Goldilocks zone of different solar systems for a couple decades now. And you know, as much as we love our planet, and granted it won't happen for a very long time, but our sun itself will explode and we will have to vacate this solar system if we want to continue on. We got to start
about like a dwarf.
Yeah.
Was that a dwarf, right? When the sun explodes?
Our sun will go supernova.
Supernova, yeah.
Right. And you know, before that, it's going to become a red giant. You know, it'll stay a red giant for millions of years. The expansion, it won't happen suddenly. It's a slow process, but in the grand scheme of things, that's pretty fast. But several million years. Here's a theory, kind of off, but something. You guys have heard of Titan, right? One of the moons of Saturn, Titan. A theory that I've heard is as the sun expands and increases its radius, it'll probably swallow the Earth and come pretty close. And so its heat signature will radiate out further, you know? So there's a theory that Titan may become more livable. Titan will warm up. So if humans needed to go someplace, Titan might be an option before they make their, their next move out of the solar system, you know, before it goes supernova. But there will be time for that.
And Titan, what is that again?
Titan is it's the second largest moon in our solar system. It's the only moon with a clear, visible atmosphere on it. It's bigger than the planet Mercury. You know, it's huge. It's maybe 3 times the size of our moon. You know, it has weather. It has visible liquids on its surface. The liquids that are on the surface is some type of petrochemical. like butane gas and all the variations of the different types of fuels that you can come up with, like when you separate them, they have different names. Well, you can find a variety of them, on Titan, and it rains that type of material. Now, the pressure is so great that it makes methane into a liquid, so cold, and the pressure is so great that, on Earth, methane is a gas, or you can freeze it, but never a liquid. But on Titan, it is both of those, very little oxygen. So you think, well, all that gasoline, shouldn't that planet be on fire all the time? No, it's oxygen deprived. So as far as I know, it doesn't burn that often, but it's got a lot of fuel on it, Maybe next time we can talk more about Titan. There's a lot more to talk about Titan. It's one of the bodies in the solar system that they suspect that there could be life there, more so than Mars. Yeah. Saturn has like more than 80 moons. And Enceladus and Titan are the two moons that are of great interest. Enceladus is another watery body, icy body, but right underneath it, there may be a liquid ocean. Hell, from what I understand, they've sent a probe through one of the plumes that shoots out geysers of water. And they believe that those geysers actually add to one of the rings of Saturn. There's a trail of geyser mist going into the rings of Saturn. But
the Cassini probe, as it was passing through Saturn's rings, it actually caught an image of a geyser erupting from the surface. Yes. And they're hoping they can find biological activity, waste matter or anything organic in it. Haven't heard anything about that quite yet. Similar to how what do they call those xenobacteria? They grow near like the heat vents in the ocean. Yeah, streamophiles, right? Your streamophiles, thank you. They believe that because there's a liquid core of water underneath the ice, the surface ice that rotates and everything like that, it causes the ice on the surface to break, and that's what causes the geysers. But they believe that the core is warm enough that there might be life under the ice. Oh, absolutely.
Oumuamua came into our atmosphere. Well, it didn't come into our atmosphere. It came into our...
in the heliosphere. I think it made it into the heliosphere. That's the whole bubble around the sun.
And basically, the government and everybody's they're like, that's not from our fucking planet, Yeah. And what do you guys know about this? And do you think, like, let me just say, like, if it was a spaceship that was blown up in a space war before, okay, imagine if like 100 up more pieces came, and that was just like the first piece of, something from this war that may have happened. Yeah. That's just, I'm just.
No, hey, that's a pretty good guess. I mean, why not? I mean, it's anything's possible because it was unusual. It was cigar shaped, almost like it was purposefully done. You know what I'm saying? What are the odds you're going to see a cigar shaped rock in space? And there it is. And it moved unusual. It moved into our part of the of space and moved out. That's some crazy shit. Yeah.
So that's almost saying like there was life in that. Whatever it was, right? Like, because it moved, it would have, it knew it had an intelligence. Right. It did something, and it moved fast enough where we weren't able to pursue it. Right. So I believe that's why they're trying to push this James-Webb-telescope stuff. Is like we're coming to that point where we have to know.
I want to know, right?
And I think the thing with a lot of this stuff is that, at least to me, is I didn't know a lot about it going into this last couple of weeks, and I've learned a lot. It's fascinating stuff. I'm surprised it does not actually get more coverage than it really does, like in the news or any other sort of publication. I was hoping if John could tell us more. What is Oumuamua? Like, what was that event?
I've heard that some top level thinkers, don't know the gentleman's name, but maybe a professor from Harvard, someone from a prestigious institution. He believed that it could be an alien spacecraft doing observations. I mean, we got the Hubble telescope, and that's as good as it gets. I would imagine 1,000 years from now, the Hubble telescope or the James-Webb-telescope will seem quite primitive. So it might be some sophisticated device that could monitor us in a way that we just don't understand. once it's gotten its information, simply moves on to the next one. You know, that's possible. That's what I've heard, and that's what I kind of lead towards. Or I just say it was just a rock.
So it's like,
you know,
so you believe, so you're saying like it's mapping out the galaxy,
yeah,
GPS system or something.
Exactly. You know, going around gathering information. You can do this through a gravity assist. You know, you don't necessarily have to have some exotic propulsion. If you've got time and patience, you can really just whip yourself around large bodies and get some significant speed. You know, there's a spaceway system where satellites or even spaceships can just, when the planets line up just right, you can traverse through all of them and use each one's gravity to get you faster and faster to get to the edge of the solar system and back. And it's mapped out and everything. One of these days, we got to look at it and talk about it. It's some wild shit, you know, really wild shit. Just to do it would be amazing.
Pulled it up on the wiki, and one of the things it says here is that in July of 2019, astronomers concluded that Oumuamua is most likely a natural object. A small number of astronomers suggested that Oumuamua could be a product of alien technology, but evidence of support of this hypothesis is widely considered to be weak. In March of 2021, scientists presented a theory based on nitrogen ice that Oumuamua may be a piece of an exoplanet similar to Pluto from beyond our solar system.
Yeah.
So more than likely, they believe that it's a piece of a planet that was destroyed somewhere out in the expanses of dead space, and we just happen to see this one hit us.
How would you explain it moving though? Because it did like a V.
Similar to the way a baseball curves when a pitcher throws a curveball. An interesting spin can have an interesting effect on the physics of it. It's an elongated thing, like John was saying, cigar shaped, and it wasn't actually spinning, you know, very fast. It was lumbering through space, kind of like if you spin a bicycle that has a reflector on it, it slows down and then speeds back up because of the weight of it. So,
but you got to imagine it did a V, so it went like back up.
It also could have been like a cue ball and hit off of another object in space that we didn't witness.
Mm-hmm.
It saved us from like an asteroid about to hit us. It hit the asteroid and then bounced away. What if we just figured it out right there? It's like all these scientists. Like, oh, welcome to Big Fan Podcast.
Right. I mean, if we're in a zoo, that's the zookeeper sending the right equipment to protect us, right? You know, the zoo hypothesis where we're all in a zoo, you know.
The glass menagerie.
Man, you know, we'll find out if we try to leave the Earth and try to go to the moon. If we get stopped, well, there it is. We're in a zoo.
So
yeah, the animals are getting out. Put them back in, you know.
Got a time to call the herd.
Yeah.
So Oumuamua didn't come from this planet, our atmosphere, our galaxy, anything like that. That's for sure. That's what they do now.
Yeah.
So we got this Space Force now. Are you guys familiar with it?
Space Force.
It's a new branch in the military created by Donald Trump.
Say rebranding?
Yes.
Because it already existed. He just rebranded.
What's it called before?
Space Command, the Air Force Space Command.
It says here December 20th December 2019, 1 year, 18 months as independent service. 1st September 1982, 39 years as Air Force Space Command.
See? And then Trump came and he was like, Space Force.
It sounds powerful. I'm sure what he was thinking. It sounds powerful.
The letters that you were looking for, John, are AFSPC.
Okay, yes.
I think I was reading that they monitor like 24,000 parts of, satellites or stuff in the in the sky. And it actually, I mean, everyone loves to goof on it and everyone likes to, but it really could be the future. It could be the next war. It could be, the next kind of fight for maybe space in certain ways with all of these satellites. And I read that they were having trouble with space junk, like junk that is up there that could be crashing into other things. Or
we've launched so much stuff into space that there is an actual ring of debris around the planet Earth right now.
Yes.
You can only get so much life out of the satellite before they conk out, just age out, and then it's just junk floating out there. I think they've got things from the 70s still out there, flying around Earth at 20,000 miles an hour.
And
I was reading that about Hubble. They only expect it's the last to 2030 to 2040 is the Hubble Space Telescope.
Yeah.
So what do you think their job is?
I mean, the next frontier, is combat in space. I don't know when or how it's going to start, but I think it's either going to shake us and not want to do it, or they're going to keep doing it. I hope not. I don't want to die in space on a moon. That doesn't make any sense. If I'm going to die, I want to die where I was born.
I think they're going to be conducting experiments and seeing how different, vehicles and everything work. They might try and build a different type of space station, and that won't work, and they'll get laughed at for it. But after like Mark 7 or whatever, they might find something that works, and it revolutionizes how we interact with, hopefully by that time we got a thing going between Earth and Mars.
Yeah, hopefully. Hey, hopefully, on a personal level, man, I hope to see some of this, man. Hey, speaking of unusual things, you ever hear of the space elevator?
I have.
Yeah, Kevin, Dan, you guys ever hear of the space elevator?
I have
Never
not
heard of it.
I'm curious. Not, huh? I'm curious now that you mention it. Please indulge us with it.
Cheap way to get in outer space, right? The theory is kind of like if you had a bucket of water with a string on the handle part, right? If you pick it up and spin it around in a circle before the water falls out, and you keep going in a circle, you can keep the weight of the water flush up against the inside of the bucket, right? So you can picture yourself being the Earth in a satellite system, being the bucket, right? Or a base. And the cord, your arms, hold it together. So picture the Earth is tethered to a space station, right? It's spinning around the Earth, but the cord is so strong that the forces enacted on it, it can handle it. This cord is going to be enormous. It's got to be something like 60,000 miles long. It's got to be something astronomical. But it'll be made out of a type of nanocarbon. That's the new graphene. There you go. Which they don't know how to make in large numbers, but they're starting to. They're starting to use graphene in cement and building construction. But to make it into a rope, they haven't gotten to that yet. But if they do, I know the Japanese are trying real hard. So what would it do? You can attach some type of motorized vehicle that's clinging to the string and it just goes up. It doesn't cost anything. It may take some hours, but it won't cost anything.
You can make some bullets out of that shit. Make some fucking bullets out of some extreme metal and shit like you guys are talking about. Like that's what the hell they're gonna do.
Yeah, right. The tensile strength of graphene, it takes a pinpoint sized metal object being pushed on by the weight of an elephant in order to break a 1-inch square.
Yeah,
I think it's like it's incredibly strong and it's incredibly durable, light, and we can grow it.
Right. And very conductive. Very conductive.
Yeah, very conductive. It's supposed to be, it's going to revolutionize body armor for police. It's supposed to revolutionize air flight. It's supposed to revolutionize space travel.
Military.
They're saying that it's like the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah, what I'd like in the movies, they do it. Alien ships, when they I don't know, Alien, what's that movie? Prometheus, right? Yes. The Juggernaut, that the alien ship, the engineer ship, when that thing hit the ground, nothing happened to it. It just rolled. It didn't break or anything. But the human ship, it crashed like a tin can. It crushed like a tin can. So I would imagine the carbon fiber we're talking about, the nanomaterial, maybe our ships will be that strong. They hit the ground, they don't crumble into pieces. I've seen movies where Star Trek Enterprise hits the side of a mountain and it's still intact. That's serious metal.
there's several movies that refer to a certain metal as unobtainium. Famously, The Core, the movie The Core, where they go to the center of the Earth to jumpstart the Earth. They use it in that one very well, but of course that one is impossible.
That metal made another appearance in Avatar. That's what they were mining on Pandora.
Great tree.
Yeah. Very overrated movie, by the way, Avatar.
Avatar, boy, you're right. The first time watching it was great. Second time around, you had time to dissect it. It wasn't that good. It's just a movie.
By the seventh time, you're like, this movie's garbage.
Yeah, pretty much. They fooled us all, really.
Yeah.
I like that movie. I like that movie. It was decent.
It's a fun popcorn movie. It's good at graphics, good effects. It's
that movie's amazing.
James Cameron, you're a genius.
So we still have people that believe flat Earth.
Yeah.
And they're called flat earthers. Do you guys believe the world is shaped circular?
My instinct says it's round. I mean, that's how gravity works, right? The idea with a flat Earth is that we're constantly accelerating upwards at one particular gravitational force, and that's what keeps us. So we're going up all the time, or relative to what we're thinking, we're going up. And that doesn't make any sense. Where are we going? Are we going in a circle? How far in space are we going? Because we're always traveling in space, that's for sure. The arms of the galaxy that we're in, that thing is moving, In about 150,000 years, we'll be in a completely different place in space, right?
Well, the sun is circular. The moon is circular.
Yep.
Every planet in our, galaxy is circular.
Yeah.
So you don't see no other flat shit. So that should explain it right there. It's like, dude.
And they accidentally believe they discovered how that happens because of certain space travel. One of the astronauts was eating rice in space, and they noticed that the rice in the bag started forming little clumps, and they called it accretion. Yeah. And they believe that's how the all the planets and everything eventually formed. It took such a long time that we'd be bored. It'd be watching water boil for 1 billion years.
Right.
Trillions.
If you threw a bunch of dead bodies floating in space, if they weren't moving, they'd eventually clump together. Anything clumps. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Get enough of them, they confuse.
And another hole in the theory of the flat earthers. Yeah. You can actually test the curvature of the Earth. All you need is, you put a stick in the ground, and then a mile down the road, you put another stick in the ground. If you shoot a laser at it, you'll actually see that it doesn't line up straight.
Yeah. Or ships disappearing in the horizon.
Yeah.
Watch a ship you see it disappear. Yeah. Even mariners knew this for thousands of years. Anyone who sailed a boat knew about this. The Earth is round.
So the reason they believe this is they don't believe that NASA is really showing any of their real footage. Like, they don't believe those photos of the Earth or videos of the Earth. They believe it's all just like green screen. Yeah. A lot of people don't even believe that they've gone into space.
Right. The moon landing was fake. They did all that stuff in a studio, them bouncing around as them on wires. There's the famous video of them on the moon where you can sort of see through the one astronaut because of the grainy video. It looks like he's a ghost.
Do you believe it?
No, I believe that all that footage was real, and I believe that it was just the poor technology at the time not being able to discern a reflection from the actual person. The cameras, they're in black and white because it was the 1960s. Everything that was going up had to be measured, and you didn't have enough, propulsion to bring all the fancy color TV stuff. Everything was, every ounce was $1 million.
Yeah.
When the astronauts took off from the moon, the flag that they planted was actually knocked over by the propulsion of the capsule.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually see it being blown away when as they lift off. And it wasn't until the third mission that they actually moved the flag like 3 miles from the original site.
So it was, when they came the third time, you say, did they pick it up and they like, oh, here it is?
I don't remember offhand. I believe like the second time they picked it up, and then the third.
Or did
time
they just bring a new one and be like, we'll never find that one?
You have to walk too far away from your lander to find it, right?
And on a clear night from a good point on the Earth, if you have a good enough telescope, you can actually see that there's still equipment up there.
Yeah,
Really?
I believe that. Yeah. There are mirrors that are on the moon that colleges use all the time and bounce lasers off the surface of the moon. Yeah.
You know, China's going to be using that stuff because apparently they're on the other side of that moon.
Yeah.
Yes, they have a hidden base on the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
I've never actually heard that, though, that we're able to see our former equipment on the moon. I've never heard that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that hasn't been brought up more when discussing the moon landing. I feel like I hear other maybe fighting the conspiracy as opposed to. I feel like that would be a really convincing piece of evidence for people that don't believe in it.
Most of the telescopes that was able to see it for many years were just really expensive. I mean, you're talking $2,000 or $3,000 telescopes back in 1972, which today would $30,000 or $40,000 personal telescopes. I'm not talking about the big fancy observatories. I'm talking about personal telescopes. And because of technology and cameras and everything like that, circling back to the James-Webb-telescope that they're putting into space, imagine inverting that telescope into a microscope. How far down can you see into the quantum realm? And it's just that's where we're getting now. We're getting to the point where we can actually use cameras to see things distinctively on the moon. You can examine the Sea of Tranquility from NASA's website. It's just a normal camera, but it's just because it's that much better than it was 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Well, that moon sure does look close, doesn't it?
It's pretty tonight. It was real pretty earlier tonight.
So, John,
yes,
you seen that moon landing too, right? You watched it.
I was alive when it happened. Well, yeah, I was baking in my mom's stomach. Yeah, wasn't done quite yet.
But have you seen the video?
Yeah, I've seen the video. Yeah. Once I was old enough, I did watch it. Now, if there's any conspiracy, it's possible maybe they didn't land there as much. You know what I'm saying? That's possible, but someone did land on it, and they did leave equipment there. There's no doubt. Some of the footage that the conspiracists say are phony, they're not good enough. I mean, they're explainable. Their suits are basically mini spaceships that are like balloons, right? You can't bend your arm easily. You can't bend your limbs at all. So it did look like maybe they were on strings, because I believe that was one of the ones they were saying, oh, look, they're on strings. No, if you were in a balloon suit, you'd probably move the same way. They were covered in that regolith dust. You could see that on their astronaut uniforms. Something that really wouldn't happen here. You can even see when the regolith, when the astronauts kicked it up, how it fell down. Now, if you kicked up dirt on the Earth, the atmosphere will have that stuff aloft for a little bit. There's a little haze of dirt before it settles down. But on the moon, it went straight down. They were on the moon.
And people often forget the moon has only 1/6 the gravity of Earth.
Yes.
We've only been to the moon a couple times, and apparently they seen like aliens, and they were like, look, this is cool this time, but you guys can't keep coming here.
I think it's the other way around. I think we've been to the moon hundreds of times more than they tell us. I think that
really,
I believe that there is a base on the dark side of the moon, whether it be Chinese, Russian, American, or a conglomerate of whatever. But I believe that the moon is actually, there are human beings up there right now that we just don't know about. Governments, whether, our government, the United Nations, whatever government you want to believe it is, I believe that their technology is that they've been going to the moon for years now, and they've set up a base and having a working, functioning headquarters up there.
Yeah,
It's funny you had mentioned though, Thomas, about the other bases on the moon, because that was actually my biggest problem with the moon conspiracy. Was I always felt like, why wouldn't we go to the moon first as like a test base? Why haven't we been back there? I mean, you explaining that we may have been, we already have a base there, and we
supposedly America hasn't been back to the moon since 1972.
Yeah.
Of course, we've had several very large disasters with our space program. The Challenger, Columbia, just to name two off the top of my head. We've been killing people. We're not doing it. We're not going to space and returning safely. Going to the moon is nice and everything like that, but unless you can do it consistently on a safe basis, how much are you willing to spend on a person's life up there? I do believe that the original moon landing was legit. I believe that all that stuff in the 70s was real and everything like that. I believe that the closest idea of what's going on up there, if you think about it, it's the perfect thing. The side of the moon that we see always faces us. As long as you don't put anything there, nobody's ever going to see it from the planet. Your line of sight, you can't see it. So, we can't. Nobody on the planet ever has a perfect clear night every night. They could have been launching satellites or rockets and everything like that for decades. The whole Star Wars program from the 80s with Reagan. That was, he wanted to have satellites that would shoot lasers for the nuclear missiles, but part of it was, going back to the moon. How come we haven't been back to the moon? Well, are you sure we haven't?
I think it's just dangerous. I think more than anything, it's dangerous. Getting there is one thing, but thriving in it is another. I think it's just way too dangerous. Micrometeorites, the constant radiation, the temperature differences. You're 400 degrees 1 second, and into the shade, you're negative 200 degrees, just like that. The stresses on the equipment must be amazing.
Not to mention that, to our knowledge, you have to bring your own air, your own food, your own water, everything. They don't, unless they're growing it up there for however long, and they figured out how to terraform up there. But to our knowledge, they haven't. So we have to believe that everything that they have up there is something that they brought from here.
Yeah. If it's true, we don't know. We're all speculating. I said, those things will come to light, I think, if that first mission on the moon fails in some way, and they're like, we got to put it back, put it on the back burner. I expect Elon Musk's attempt to get to the moon to go off without a hitch.
Documents have to be declassified. Yes. I think it's 75 or 90 years or something like that.
Yes.
So, God willing, we will all live to see the full report of like the JFK stuff.
I think in the 2030s, it's coming up fairly soon.
Vietnam, we'll see some of it. I know me personally, I was born in 75, so I probably won't see all of it.
Man, I'm old. Okay, go ahead.
I want everybody to answer this. Do you guys believe in aliens?
Yes.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Dan?
I think I do, but until there's definitive proof, because I don't know, and I think it's like it's something that's been talked about. But if you believe in something without it ever being factually proven, can't you just say that anything could theoretically exist? Then I could say there's an elephant with a tiger face, and that could run like an ostrich.
We don't know exactly what the dodo bird looked like because we made it extinct before we took its picture.
Yeah.
They actually came up with a formula to determine the probability of life on another planet. But that aside, logically, there are literally billions of planets out there that could potentially house in that quote unquote Goldilocks zone.
Sure.
To think that, only 1 in 10 trillion is one that's stuck ever.
Yeah.
That's a little far-fetched.
Probability, because you just mentioned habitable zones. Don't forget about moons. We've got at least 6 or 7 bodies in our solar system that are suspected of potential life. Yeah, so the chances may number in the trillions, to be honest. I mean, if there are billions of stars in our galaxy,
That we can
technically
see.
speaking, that we can see, right? So there might be billions of planets and planetoids.
Right now, my personal belief is that we have a mirror, not only a mirror planet, but a mirror universe, where everything that's happening on our planet is happening at the same time over there, kind of like Twilight Zone-ish. And it's just, we would never meet just because the distances between us right now is incomprehensible to the human mind.
Haven't we gone back to the moon yet? It's been 1972, and I've read stuff talked about how we lost the technology. We don't have the technology to get back to the moon. I've read stuff about the radiation belts around the Earth.
I personally think it boils down to money. Right now, there's no profitable way to make the moon part of the economy. There's no resources up there to mine.
We could go to the moon. We got the
immense
money.
Wealth on the moon. That if someone actually managed to figure out how to be able to take the rocks back from the moon, that they would be the next beyond billionaire, like trillionaire.
The mass driver. It's a rail gun, basically a magnetic. To conquer the moon, the first thing they got to build are factories that make the machines. That's the first and foremost. And it can be done because the materials to make the machines are on the moon. You just got to fly the equipment in there and start building. Oh, it can be done. Having a base on the moon, you got to go several hundred feet into the ground to protect yourself from the micrometeorites and the temperature variations and stuff like that.
Like I said earlier, it costs, on average, $1 million per ounce to take something up there. So, who has the money to do that in the first place? Only people that can make their own money, governments.
Right.
Launch it. No. What you do is you launch it up there.
Yeah, but it costs a lot of money to do that. It takes resources to get stuff up there.
Still.
And right now, you don't get anything back from it.
Yeah, it's getting cheaper though. Elon is making it cheaper, but it's still quite a bit.
Bezos,
reusable rockets, and
Branson. That first civilian flight just landed the other day or something like that.
Yeah. Well, if they could make a space station, they could get shit up there.
Right, and that's what I mean. Is the government is usually the first experimenters on most occasions. They're the ones that test the waters, and I believe that we don't know what they're not telling us. So there's no reason to say that at least one government isn't up there at all times. They're not going to tell us about stuff because bad shit happens and they're wasting a lot of money.
Sirius B. It's 3 stars, Sirius A, B, and C. Yes. And they actually believe we actually came from Sirius B.
Yeah.
Sirius B is the name of the fainter, smaller, less massive star in the Sirius binary system. The brighter, larger, more massive one is Sirius A, or just Sirius. It is one of the most massive white dwarfs so far discovered. Its mass is the same as that of the sun, approximately.
Well, the Dugan tribe, they believe that they've met with aliens. Aliens have came down and shared this technology with them, and taught them about dense matter before we even knew about dense matter.
Yes.
And basically, the American scientists and everybody said there was no way that they could have known this because it's not visible from the eye, and without the telescopes that that weren't invented at the time. So
when they weren't believing them, they said, "Hey, while you're here, we're going to do a traditional dance for you." Yeah, go ahead. And when they did it, they were wearing the costumes looked like astronaut uniforms. Yeah, they resemble astronaut uniforms. Amazing.
Something I found online, according to the ChandraChronicles.com, or I'm sorry, Chandra's Harvard.edu chronicles. In 1976, Robert Temple made news with a Sirius B mystery of another sort in his book, The Sirius Mystery. He speculated that Earth had been visited a few thousand years ago by amphibious beings from a planet around Sirius. His evidence for the incredible assertion came from a report by French anthropologist Marcel Graudon and German dietitian who in the 1930s and 1940s had studied the traditions of mythology of the Dogon, a remote West African tribe located around 300 kilometers south of Timbuktu in Republic of Mali. Some elements of the Dogon mythology are reminiscent of ancient Egypt, including the prominence of Sirius in their traditions. Other aspects reveal an impressive knowledge of bits and pieces of modern astronomy.
Yeah. So what they believe is like they were half fish body, and the rest human, and they came down in like suits and shit. And
so you're saying they're the basis for the Atlantis and the mermen and all that?
Yeah. I'm going off of like because I didn't read his book, but I like watched his segment and he explains it. He got the thing on YouTube. And so basically what he's trying to say is like he's not saying that there are aliens. He's saying there's a mystery. He's like, check out this mystery, like check this shit out, because it is interesting, you know. And they did get knowledge and they did get information that we didn't even have discovered yet, you know. With all
I do know that in college I learned in our history class that there was definitely an army from the Atlantic Sea that came in and attacked various countries at various times, and the time frame fits. It was around the time of Mesopotamia, you know.
The sea people. The
sea people. Yeah. So you know, and some people said that they were half, you know, fish or half frog or, you know, half lizard, you know, whatever half, but they weren't pure human.
Right.
And
they crashed the Bronze Age, I believe. Their actions crashed the Bronze Age. Yeah.
But throughout history, you know, there was definitely an army that came around that time from the sea. So that part is true. What came, who knows? But for many years, that's the speculation that, you know, all the stories of, you know, stuff like Atlantis and all that came from that. You know, and it's very possible that there was a continent over there that was destroyed, but that part doesn't fit the timeline as much.
From the Bronze Age, they don't know how the Assyrian Empire fell. And they came back 100 years later, and people didn't even know what the empire was that was there.
Yeah. You know, Vikings didn't wear helmets with horns on them.
No.
But the sea people did. They had helmets with horns on them. Yeah. Yeah. The account of these people is sketchy at best. No one knew where they came from. They just appeared one day and they attacked all of the major Bronze Age civilizations at the time and pretty much gave everyone a run for the money, but ultimately crashed their economies.
But going back to what the website said about them having similar beliefs and similar astrology, you know, they looked at the same sky. They saw the same stars.
Yeah.
You know, it's not uncommon for people that see the same things. You know, think about, have you ever looked at a cloud and seen an image and somebody says, oh, I think I see this. And you're like, oh yeah, I see it too.
Yeah.
You know, people tend to see what they want to see sometimes, and they make stuff up. You know, the human mind is an amazing thing. We can read stuff that are cut off halfway there. Like if I cut my face off, people who know me can recognize me just by seeing part of my face. They don't need to see the entire face.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, the mind fills in the blanks sometimes when it's not supposed to. So when we see a star and we see a constellation, it might not look the same from a different part of the earth.
No, but they said that it wasn't. That's the thing, you know. It's not just like we're saying it and shit. It was like they went over there and they were like, nope, no way. And
I mean,
another thing though is like in Egypt, they believed in their gods, and they were half, man, half beast, basically. You got lions and birds and stuff like that, lizards, and like
Isis, Osiris, and Ra, all of them. Yeah.
but they believed in it, and that could be aliens.
They also believe that drilling a hole in your head would release the demons, and you no longer have a headache.
Right. And I don't know, maybe your viewers will correct me, but from what I understand, the term "amen" after a prayer comes from Amen, one of the Egyptian deities. Yeah, that's where we get it from. Because there was a time before Christianity, everyone paid homage to Amen. Is it Aman or Aman? Iman. Well, anyway.
Good, man. It's the most fascinating. I feel like one of the most fascinating civilizations that ever was.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've always believed in, and a lot of people hate me for saying this, is if we look at the Bible, and you can see some of the history of the time of some of the things that we're talking about, the fall of Egypt, the fall of Rome, and everything like that, all that time around, the Bible might not be accurate with everything, but it gives you a pretty broad idea of what life was like in that time. The distance that people traveled, the interactions that the different continents and countries had with each other. They didn't make that all up. That some of that was actually happening at the time.
Yeah, a huge part of the history that we also don't know. Like the relationship between Upper and Lower Egypt and the Kingdom of Kush on the southern border. To get into some, not to get too racial, but talk about history as I interpret it. People ask questions. Are the Egyptians black? Because they had a movie a couple of years ago with Gerard Butler and another white actor, and it was called Gods and Kings, I think. And a lot of African Americans were offended by that. And so I wanted to know, really, were Egyptians black? Were they? And from what I'm getting and understanding, they were a hybrid group, right? You got the blacks in sub-Sahara Africa, and then to the east of that, you've got Asia, and you got the Asians coming into the Nile Valley, and you got the Africans. So they make a hybrid group of people, because when you look at the Egyptian drawings, they look like a mixture of people. But over time, more Central Asians are migrating into Egypt. Egypt is where the party is. It's like going into America. If you want success, you go to Egypt. So the population begins to change. But the people in the South,
they call the Nile, the cradle of life over there, because it's where all the civilization stems from. All of our recorded history and everything like that stems from over there.
I'll go even further than that. The Nile Valley represents the changing of the environment, and people are gathering to the Nile because it's the only source of water. Now, the Sahara was green at a time, okay? Right. And it didn't disappear overnight. It gradually changed, right? How did they know this? Satellite images right now are finding underground lakes in the Sahara Desert so deep that most of it evaporated, but a lot of it went underground. And they're finding these extensive river systems, So the Sahara was just as green in the north as it was in the south, right?
And it's no mistake that not just from recorded history, but for genetically they can trace all of human ancestry back to that same area too. We all sprang from that area.
Yes. And as the desert is growing, expanding, and it's drying up all that lush area, people are going to the Nile River because that's the only place where you can live. And they're bringing all of their technology, culture. There's a mashup of a lot of things that are going to converge into Egypt. Before Egypt is called Egypt, before Egypt has a sense of itself, there's a civilization there before the Egyptians. They built right on top of them.
And again, mixing conspiracy theories. When Moses led the Jews through the desert for 40 years and they lived off of manna, a lot of people, a lot of people believe that the mana was food provided by the aliens.
Yeah.
So
you've heard this before, Kevin?
Not exactly.
The mana? Yeah. I've
No,
heard of
never.
mana. What is this, some kind of bread or something, Tom?
It's a famous Bible story.
Yeah, that's what they speculate now as it was, just a fancy bread, like kind of like how you keep sourdough alive for years. They believe that's what it's similar to what it was. But.
Mana. If you were to describe heaven, how would you describe that? Is it perfect? Is it peaceful?
Do you believe in it?
You don't believe in it?
Some people don't, obviously.
Can I weigh on it?
Yeah.
Weigh in on it. Well, I don't know. I'm not religious in the least, but I understand. Okay, I totally understand because I don't have any answers, no more than any religious person has an answer. It's called faith, not facts. You can wish it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. But I understand where the feeling comes from, because from this perspective right now, it seems like we were created, but I don't know. So if we were created, our creator supposedly provides an extra life, another life, a second life. I mean, it's possible. The energy that runs our body, right? There's electricity going through our body, right? Right.
Yep.
Would you say that's our life force in a sense, right? That's part of our life force, that electrical energy, right?
Yeah.
Sure. And from what I understand, you can never destroy energy. You just can't. You can recycle it over and over again. The energy that we use to power our homes and our devices is electricity. That's ambient energy that's in the air. You just find a way to put it together and use it. So once our energy dies, does it just dissipate into the air, ready to go into someone's air conditioner? Or does it hold form and it goes someplace else? I don't know. I mean, it's a possibility, but I wouldn't promote it because it's just my personal feeling. It's not facts, it's faith. Yeah.
Well,
trying to come up with answers. I love it.
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be. Right. Only got so many years in this world. Let's try and understand some of these things before we check out.
But every religion says the Messiah is coming back. And even the Dugan tribe said the aliens are coming back, Yeah.
Human intuition? Maybe so.
You got to have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
People have predicted that Christ is coming, or not just Christ, but throughout various tragedies, in history. Well, it's
interesting, man. I like what you're doing here. I think it's really good. I'd really like to hear what some of your listeners would have to say about what we talked about and how often they sit in groups and have these conversations, right? These are just four guys relatively the same age talking about the world they would live in. I think it's an important conversation. More people should have that. I love the platform. I love the show.
I also think what's important is we're able to have different views and still be friends and talk to each other, and you don't have to separate.
Have to
I don't
be,
want
man.
to talk to any of you ever again.
That's what I feel is the true thing.
I know
that's
where you
missing
live, man.
Diversity of ideas is I think that's something that really is lacking. And even if you don't agree with it, it should inspire you to do your own research to prove people wrong and to be able to challenge what you believe. Because I feel like that's a problem with a lot of people, is they don't ever challenge what they believe in any sort of meaningful way.
Yeah. Yeah, for me personally, the mark of a true intellect is coming across new information that might contradict what you've come to know. And when faced with better information, consider changing it or altering it. Improve your perception. If someone says that the sun is not made out of burning timber, and they can prove it and explain to you why it's not burning timber, because I say that because the Romans thought that the sun was a whole lot of trees, a whole lot of timber burning, because they didn't know what it was. And someone did the math on it. If the sun was all sticks that size, it would burn through in 10,000 years. Yeah, interesting, useless facts, but yeah. Yeah, like you were saying, man, four guys with different opinions, and we can come together and have a discussion about important topics. I think we covered quite a bit, and there's so much more to cover. So much more to cover, so much more to talk about. Yeah.
So
Let's talk about it.
So like in space,
Yeah.
you know how they're not able to control gravity the way they want to yet. You know, they're like floating around, drifting.
Yeah.
And I was always wondering, like, why don't they put like Velcro shoes on and put like a Velcro padding like on the floor and stuff, like a rug? And you know, like, why not? Did I just figure that shit out for for NASA and shit?
No. I mean, you can orientate your physical body, but you can't orientate your organs and your liquids in your body. Just because you're vertical relative to what you're standing in, you're not really standing. You know, it's the Earth, the reference of the Earth that gives you that up and down and the pull of gravity to reinforce what up and down might mean to you. But when you're in space, just because you have Velcro boots and you're sticking to it and you think you're standing, you're not actually standing. You're in an odd position. So the liquids in your body and your organs are still doing something unusual. You understand what I'm saying? It's gravity that pulls everything down. Your heart beats specifically because of the gravitational pull of the liquids in your body, how it pumps it around. If you remove that major factor, the gravity, then your heart has a hard time pumping blood throughout the body. So I would imagine even if you were vertical in some Velcro boots, you know, the liquids in your body are going to slosh around in a wrong way. I understand that when the astronauts first go up to the space station, one of the first effects that they have is all their fluids rising up to their heads. Their eyeballs are reddish, their heads are swollen, a lot of liquid going up there before the heart can figure it out and pump it into a more manageable position. So I don't think it'll be much different.
I believe I heard that one of the long-term effects of being in space for long periods of time is you lose bone density.
Yes.
Well, they work out for two hours.
Even still,
not enough. Yeah. It slows it down, but it doesn't stop it.
Yeah, because you don't get it all day. That all day kind of affects
They should send bodybuilders up there because they've got more to lose. By the time they come back, they'll just be regular guys.
Arnold in space. It's big now.
Right. Man, I don't think they'll ever be able to solve gravity. You know, gravity is one of those fundamental forces of nature that they haven't found a graviton particle. It's really elusive. You know, when you talk about controlling gravity, they have to locate a particle that they can manipulate before they even consider any type of gravity manipulation. Because right now it's just a theory. And a theory means that they know what it is, but they don't know everything there is to know about it, right? You know, they can talk about the effects. They can give the mathematic equations to explain it, at least on the Earth, you know, and other bodies out there. But what it is exactly, there's nothing to pinpoint what it is, only what it does.
And it's interesting how the rules of physics and gravity and all that go out the window when you start getting into the quantum realm.
Oh, man.
The mechanics and quantum physics is a completely different study from regular physics.
Yeah. Almost seems magical. Yeah. Or you making that shit up, man. You know, sometimes it sounds so fantastical. You guys are making shit up. And, you know, you know, Dan, you were saying like what is it about the public and why don't they like, how come they're not getting excited about some of these new things that are coming online? Man, they're not gonna like it when you start talking about quantum physics. that the math behind that seems so spooky, you know, spooky.
I feel like they could find ways to make things more manageable and break it down a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a way.
There's a way, right? Man, agreed.
Where there's a whip, there's
conspiracy about all the getting back to the space thing for 1 second. I want to hear what John has to say, and Thomas too, and Kevin. But have you seen The Shining and all the ties with Stanley Kubrick and him? Essentially, if you don't believe the moon landing, you could believe that Stanley Kubrick was producing from the movie that he was making at the time,
right?
And he couldn't talk about it and hid evidence.
Isn't there a movie about that?
Huh? Capricorn.
Kubrick was supposed to direct a fake moon landing.
Yeah. That's what he had directed the moon landing. Actually, what you're watching is Stanley Kubrick, and it was from the Space Odyssey 2001 set.
Yeah.
And he couldn't talk about it, and they silenced him. And he hid clues in The Shining with various moon, like Tang was in the background, or he was wearing the little kid was wearing a NASA sweatshirt, and didn't talk about like he went into the room, the secret room they weren't allowed to go to in the movie. Did you guys see The Shining? Because if not, like,
yeah, I've seen The Shining. Maybe I should watch it again. You know, I was going to go back to 2001: Space Odyssey.
Rad,
you know,
Rob.
Yeah. The Shining,
give The Shining a watch and look for that. Look for the NASA sweatshirt when he when the little kid goes into the room and then he comes back and he doesn't talk anymore. Yeah. For like a long time. That was supposed to be how the government silenced Kubrick.
Okay. Because when he did 2001 Space Odyssey, there were some anomalies about what he thought space would be like. Like the space station, the way it's illuminated. He got it all wrong. The light is coming from the wrong direction,
What are we talking about? Hold on. What, is this a movie? The Shining?
Yeah. Okay. The Shining is a movie.
The horror movie? I've seen it. The horror movie?
No. Yeah. A little background. Stanley Kubrick is a famous director. He directed movies like A Clockwork Orange, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Eyes Wide Shut. Yeah. But
Full Metal Jacket.
He's a brilliant director. He's done all sorts of genres. I mean, just phenomenal work. But during the 1960s, there was a conspiracy that, they were working on the moon landing. They were trying to get the Stanley Kubrick to film a version of the moon landing in case something went wrong. They wanted to show that they did it anyway.
Right. Okay.
So that's what John's talking about with that. But Stanley Kubrick he put little hidden Easter eggs in different movies. He directed the movie The Shining, and Dan's saying that there's little hidden acknowledgments to these rumors and myths and everything like that, such as the symbolism of the child wearing the NASA sweatshirt and not being able to say anything is Stanley Kubrick using his art to say that he was silenced by the government.
Correct.
Honey, I'm home. Yeah.
Here's Johnny. And there was Tang, and there was a lot. There was more things. I mean, it wasn't just the one thing, but that was obviously the crux of it was that scene. Yeah, definitely.
Because they faked.
They had a plan B. A plan B to go with the lie that they did land on the moon, like it failed, So they had to have something.
Whether it worked or not, the public was going to see a successful moon landing.
Right.
So
yeah.
Well, how do you know you didn't?
Crisp.
How do you know you? That's the thing, though. It's like, how do you know it's not?
That's why we're talking about it. In 2021, we don't.
Yes. That's why I just brought it up because there is that. There is
program, the moon landing program that's supposed to be going on. I mean, like I said, like I've been saying since they said it, if there's a failure of any kind, something's up. I don't see any reason why this man should fail. He is testing his equipment and retesting his equipment. It's ready to go. I mean, they just need to put the final pieces together. It's got to go. From what I understand, I've heard rumors of the Russians making it to the moon, and they landed on the moon and they crashed there, and they don't talk about it. They even played it up in a movie. Was it Apollo 18? Did you guys ever see that one?
I did not see that one. I heard about it.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah. I enjoyed it because they mix real footage into the movie. There were some anomalies on the moon. Rocks would rise and move in these unusual flight patterns. 90-degree turns. You see rocks rise up, and astronauts didn't see them while they were on the moon. And sometimes when the astronauts weren't there, cameras were rolling, and they've got hours and hours of footage before the batteries ran out of these things.
Well, don't forget the lesson that you learned from War of the Worlds.
How so?
You know the what happened with the War of the Worlds broadcast in 1939?
Yes, Orson Welles. Yes.
Yeah, Orson Welles, he broadcast War of the Worlds, but people thought it was real because they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think as a whole with the internet and everything like that, everybody is able to, we lost John, to edit and make their own footage of whatever, it's getting hard to tell what's real and what's not.
Yeah. No doubt.
I was working at a movie theater when a movie called The Blair Witch came out.
Yeah.
The Blair Witch Project. And I was one of 3 theaters in the Chicagoland area that had the movie, and we rocked with that movie. I mean, every show was sold out for weeks on that one.
Yeah.
I would argue with customers almost on a daily basis about how the movie was not real. The filmmakers were students, and the marvel of the movie was that they made that movie for a shoestring budget, and it made millions of dollars. They made up everything in that movie. They took a local legend and exploited it. They changed just enough and everything so that they didn't have to pay any royalties to anybody. But people swore on their lives that it was real because they had a media blitz. They had an internet site set up. This was 1998, 1999. Before YouTube.
Viral.
Before all that stuff. But they put out posters. They put out commercials. They put out all this information as a media blitz to promote the movie, and people bought into it. They made it a real thing, and the fact that they made a sequel and was just god awful, horrible. Movie. Please don't ever.
They don't know where to go. They didn't know where to go with that one.
That was disgusting. But going back to the Orson Welles War of the Worlds thing, in 1939, people, the radio was a fairly new invention, and television was, around the corner yet. People would come home and they would listen to the radio. They would gather and sit there around, Franklin Roosevelt and his fireside chats. They knew this for, almost so many years that they were used to it. And when they came into this broadcast in the middle and didn't know it was fake, they freaked the fuck out.
Yeah.
They started burning their barns. They started raping, their cows and shit like that. Talk about anal probes, man. They were
mass hysteria. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That was something else, and a shame too. A shame that was their first reaction. If the aliens were monitoring us, and got the gist of what Orson Welles did, they're like, well, there you go. That's why we can't reveal ourselves to these folks.
I remember hearing when we were learning about the Hindenburg in high school. There was a conspiracy that was aliens destroying it because their evidence was that it went up way too fast. It shouldn't have gone up that fast. And I mean, right away, obviously it went up that fast because it was a giant balloon filled with hydrogen.
Right.
The most flammable substance in the universe.
Right.
Very obvious.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
And something about static electricity. Static electricity, man. It's I think there was an electrical disturbance in the area at the time, and the way this thing lit up,
they coated the outside of the Zeppelins with this anti conductive stuff that actually generated its own electricity. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I know what you're talking about.
Hindenburg.
You guys are pretty intelligent guys.
Just a bunch of nerds that read a lot.
I've killed a few more brain cells than I care to admit too.
Yeah. It's the story of the world.
Yeah. Like I said, the time that we're here, don't you want to know something before we check out? Checkout time is around the corner for everybody. Don't you want to know? I want to know. Who the fuck doesn't want to know? War is coming. And do we think war is actually going to happen?
I see the most likely potential war happening somehow where North Korea, who's been shooting missiles off all over the place, they're going to piss somebody off to the point where somebody actually sends a missile at them, and it's going to be the worst pissing contest in history, and it's going to escalate to war. And somehow the United States will get involved, and especially with the powder keg going on in the Middle East, it's going to escalate real quick. And it's either going to, everybody's going to say, okay, calm down and we're going to start talking, or there's not going to be much of a planet in a few years.
No.
Do you feel like the other countries respect us now, even though that we lost to
America is the light from which all free countries will be able to see. If America falls, the world falls. It's not perfect, but it's trying to stick to the ideal of freedom for all. Hey, that's it for me.
I think our image right now, our credibility is decreasing exponentially on a daily basis.
I don't know. I think people can recognize that it's temporary. If you're not a fan of Biden, that's okay. But he's going to do what we've always done. He's just going to go back to business. And I think he'll
the times. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's unrepairable by any means. But right now, especially with the way we've handled things in Afghanistan and with the way they're handling things on our southern borders with the deportation of all these different refugees right now. I mean, we're just doing the wrong things over and over again for whatever reason.
Yeah. Setting up these people for a disaster, a huge disaster.
Shown with this Afghanistan debacle that he's asleep at the wheel at best.
Well, he did inherit a kind of a big conundrum. I mean, Trump kind of did give away the house and the barn and everything underneath, with some of the stuff that he did. But Biden didn't do himself any favors by saying, I don't know what to do, and not doing anything at all. So,
well, they've been at it for 20 years. I don't think they had anything left. There's nothing else to do.
I totally agree with leaving. I believe we should be out of all countries. Personally, I'm an isolationist of belief.
Laissez-faire.
No, I mean, I don't know about laissez-faire, but the United States was founded on isolationism, and we were an isolationist country until World War II. And I believe we should go back to that personally, but it's pretty unlikely. But
that's hard. It's the American dollar, though. I mean, it's the standard currency. America has to protect its interests. There's no way that she can, step out of world affairs because it's about her money. If she takes a step back, then other players step in, and then the world economy begins to change. Something's competing with the dollar.
And personally, with the way the economy is, we are a leader in more ways than just military. We are, a leader of technology. We are a leader of art, and literature,
culture, right?
We would never allow other countries to do with what we do with our military bases. We wouldn't allow it to happen to us. We have military bases around the entire world. Yeah, and nobody else has that. Nobody else has anything.
But we still have to interact with all these other countries, with all these other people, with all these other traditions and customs and cultures. There has to be a happy medium somewhere.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this though: do you guys feel like the president pulled out because of the COVID situation, the germs?
No, I don't think so. I think we'd keep fighting.
You think it's just negligence?
Yeah, I think it's negligent. I mean, war is always sloppy. I don't think there's any war that's ever gone on perfectly, unless it's just, a limited engagement. But there, after 20 years, your enemies are going to do something that you don't predict. And what they did was simply leave. They just left. They knew man for man, they really didn't stand a chance. Or equipment versus men, man for man, the Taliban gave them a hard time. There was this one. It was early in the invasion. There was they were going to try and take one of the cave areas, one of the strongholds, and they landed a couple of helicopters in it with troops of men. Two platoons or a brigade. I'm not sure how that works. And they got ambushed. I mean, they got the asses handed to them, and they never did that thing, did that type of aggressive movement again. Instead, they disengaged from a distance. The Taliban, the Afghani people are no joke. They are no joke. They are hard for a reason. Yeah, they are hard for a reason. Kind of like the Vietnamese.
Everybody.
Yeah, and something like the Vietnamese. I didn't know this, but the Vietnamese went to war soon after the Americans left Vietnam with the Chinese. And the Vietnamese gave them a run for the money. They give everybody a run for the money. The Viet Minh were just tough. Those tunnels, their determination, and willing to sacrifice millions of people just for an objective. No, you can't beat that. You can't.
Those tunnels and shit are fucking crazy. What was that movie, Platoon?
Yeah.
You guys seen that shit? Yeah, I'm a big fan of that shit.
Mm-hmm,
and you got to go in there with a flashlight and a handgun and shit and crawl through the tunnels and shit. And boom, 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 boom. Crazy shit.
Right. Yeah,
but it's real. It's like the ability somebody has to push to the limits.
Yeah. Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Handle the mission. Handle the mission. Yeah.
One of the greatest movies of all time, Full Metal Jacket. Yeah, our Lee Hammer, man. The opening part of that movie is amazing. Yeah, I loved Arlie Hammer in that movie. Do you see it though, Kevin?
Yeah. Big fan of that movie. Yeah. Steers and queers, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up right here. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah.
My name is John Jean. I've always liked looking up and wondering things, and as I've gotten older, I've jumped into learning more things, and the more I learn, the more I've come to develop my own philosophy about life. I feel like when I look up and I learn something, personally, I feel like I'm going to church and I'm reading things out of a physics book. It's kind of like getting things out of the Bible. If there's a comparison of any kind, it's like that for me. I feel inspired by reading it. As boring as it may seem, I'm inspired by it.
Second time guest coming on. Can you introduce yourself one more time for my listeners?
Hello again, everyone. My name is Tom. I like long walks on the beach and romantic dinners.
Talking about the universe. And on this topic, Neil deGrasse Tyson said the universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. And that is kind of how I've approached this topic. It is, the concepts here is beyond crazy. It's kind of mind-blowing, but it's very overwhelming. So